Fine, Michael, I will do the video. And honestly, I've been pondering at the thought of doing a video about this due to a recent event, or should I say, upcoming battle format. So, let me get started, but first and foremost, congrats are in order for Santino Tarquinio. He's the new VG champion, VGC champion, whatever. The only thing that's left is for a certain someone to do a witch hunt, find nothing tangible whatsoever, just to push a stagnant narrative and promote another smear campaign claiming that he cheated somehow, starting with the most admissible evidence ever, a palette swap of his Pokemon. Oh, and whatever fucking Pokeball they were caught in.
Illegally.
Because those things totally give you a competitive advantage. But anyway, back to this. What is Michael talking about? And this comes from my Niantic, Game Freak, and Double Standards video. If you give a shit, be sure to check it out, and much more importantly, the links in the video's description. Which, by the way, you all should keep an eye out for every single time I post a video, because sometimes the video's description is worth reading. Now, he's talking about the infamous why they claimed that they couldn't support all Pokemon argument, if you can call that an argument. But what I want to pick apart here is number 3. Why even bother removing the Pokemon if you're just going to add them all back anyway? And that got me thinking about this. The new VGC rule set for the upcoming Series 6 battle format. And it lists restrictions. Let's see what we find. Alright, you're restricted to using Pokemon in the Galar Pokedex, Isle of Armor Pokedex, the Alola starters, Cobalion, Terrakion, Virizion, which also require the Galar mark or Battle Ready mark. Even more relevant than that is this line. Banned Pokemon: Venusaur, Gyarados, Porygon 2, Tyranitar, Torkoal, Hippowdon, Magnezone, Togekiss, Excadrill, Whimsicott, Incineroar, Mimikyu, Rillaboom, Cinderace, Indeedee, Dragapult, Mewtwo, Mew, Celebi, Jirachi, Reshiram, and all of the other legendary and mythical Pokemon in this list. So wait, they are banning Pokemon still for another battle format, which has been a thing since the good old days in Pokemon. Nothing here has changed, but wait, people are actually upset at this. And only one question comes to mind. Why? What were you all expecting exactly? Now, in my humble opinion, it is a breath of fresh air to see something brand new, other than the typical Excadrill and Tyranitar combo, female Indeedee plus any capable offense-wise psychic type Pokemon with expanding force, Cinderace all over the place, Torkoal, the list goes on, is perfect for encouraging creativity, not to mention adapting to what you're not used to, because a lot of you know you love your little bubble and what you're used to winning with, getting easy wins with, if you will. If not, well, it still promotes creativity. On top of that, however, I smell bias. Somebody tell me, because I'm not perfectly versed in competitive Pokemon, but why is Venusaur banned, but everybody's favorite a la Charizard and even Blastoise aren't? They all essentially have the exact same Gigantamax move, but Venusaur gets axed. Honestly, don't see much difference there, but anyway, you won't get to see a lot of these Pokemon everyone loves to use. Can't forget Urshifu, both forms by the way, for a while, and it's just for this battle format. And I don't even see anyone using a Sandaconda, what the fuck. But the upset comes at the realization of that infamous lie that Masuda told way back in June of last year.
We knew at some point we weren't going to be able to keep indefinitely supporting all of the Pokemon.
Well, as we all know, that turned out to be a lie, because the Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra are bringing back more, but not all Pokemon. So maybe they just have a horrible way with words, on top of being disingenuous. But much more interesting is what he said right here, where they just found out after 8 generations of Pokemon, ladies and gents, that Sword and Shield would probably be a good point to go back and reevaluate what would be the best selection of Pokemon that appeal to the widest audience, while keeping into consideration the balance of the battle system. 2 things. You could never decide whose favorite Pokemon is the best to go with out of millions of Pokemon fans. You'd do better dodging rain while wearing a blindfold. And much more importantly than that, there is no balancing anything with an RNG in it. That's why it's called a random number generator. That's just like expecting 7s or 11s every time you roll a pair of dice, or one side to always show when flipping a coin. Why do you think every single random encounter doesn't net you a shiny Pokemon? That's literally the same thing, with the exception being a dice with 4,096 sides, with only one side being shiny. So again, I ask you all, why are you surprised at this? First, they weren't gonna support all Pokemon, then they did, but you still can't use shit like Greninja, despite Cinderace being a fire type version of that. Watch all, Cantonian and Alolan Raticate. You get the idea. And again, the Crown Tundra is gonna add more Pokemon. And along with this bullshit balancing of the battle system, which was never possible, you didn't quite get those high quality animations and graphical fidelity as well, did you? So I'm trying to understand, what were people expecting? Are people truly betrayed? Are your hearts broken that despite the Dex cut and Pokemon slowly being added in, that Game Freak not only stumbles on their own words, but they are clearly mindless of how contradictory they've been. And on top of that, battle formats, Dex cut or not, have always been this way, and they're just a temporary thing. All I'm saying is, I bet these are the same people that were rooting for Game Freak no matter what bullshit Game Freak fed them. If not, this is encouraged creativity. What changes because of the laughably inconsistent noise behind the Dex cut from Game Freak themselves? And as this is more documentation of how disingenuous and laughably incompetent Game Freak is, even with their word usage and claims, this is yet more evidence that Sword and Shield have always been malnourished. If you really think that the Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra weren't meant to be the rest of Sword and Shield, the complete product, then what explains why they sold both of these areas instead? And with the added Pokemon, as well as their Dynamax and possible Gigantamax forms, do you really think they're not taking all of this time to complete the data for all of those assets? I'm sure some hacker has already tried to access the Crown Tundra and got next to nothing, but we know those apologists out there love to blindly bend over for Game Freak no matter what, which is why you get betrayed with shit like this. Oh gee, what's the latest argument?
Sword and Shield are complete. Just because it wasn't what you wanted doesn't mean that it isn't.
Yeah, some simp actually said this. But as we know with those apologists, any noise they spout is nothing more than hypocritical noise. Because in the same vein, just because you blindly bow to it doesn't mean that it's complete. But anyway, I'm not understanding the upset behind the battle format. It's a temporary thing. Game Freak's out here to sell games with their new business model of no support for all Pokemon, then going back on that word, giving you more but not all of them, and still banning Pokemon, because at the end of the day, that Dex cut bullshit that they peddled never benefited anything and mattered beyond getting all of you and them used to putting in less work and everyone being okay with it. Given many fans in this community, I don't understand why they felt the need to even bother with any and all of that. Expect more betrayals like this down the road. Who knew that it was never about the Dex cut and all of this other nonsense they peddled just to get people used to the little effort that they're willing to actually put out there, while further fortifying that incompetent and archaic bubble they continue to live in. That is why, ladies and gents, in the pre-6th gen days, you did more in Pokemon games. You got bigger Pokemon games for less. Look how that turned out with Sword and Shield. But hey, like Game Freak's biggest supporters always say, shut the fuck up, consume product, and get excited for the next one. Woo!